All right, welcome into a new episode of the Zero Technique Football Podcast presents BSP Sunday Morning Fantasy. We got a full house here. We got Marthony Sanders. We got Andrew Fiume. How's it going, guys?
Beautiful Sunday.
Yes, sir. Can't complain.
We're finally starting to get that. And I know, we're halfway through November, but it's been a weird fall so far here in the Northeast, where it's been randomly, we get those random cold days, but it's been relatively warm. It's now finally starting to get to that everyday chill, and it's like, all right, this now is football weather. So I love going out every morning, taking my little walk, and uh, just wearing that hoodie.
Yeah.
It's starting to get like that a little bit down here, down south too. It's getting
Yes.
there.
Once the grass starts to get a little crispy and frosty, that's
Yeah.
when we're in the right time.
Absolutely. So, we've got a great show for everyone. We're going to open up with a couple of our favorite Vegas lines for this week. Going to look at maybe some lineup questions that us personally are looking at this week, and then also our studs, duds, and sleepers as we look to week 11. So, first to open up, the league that I am the commissioner of, the league that I've been running now, I get about 12 or 13 years. It's a 12-team PPR Superflex league. Right now, there are 8 teams within one game of each other at the top of the league.
Yep.
There are 2
Wow.
teams sitting at 7-3, 6 teams sitting at 6-4. And of those 8, 6 of us are playing against each other this week. I traded for Lamar Jackson earlier this week, and of course, it's just been my history this year. I traded in my dynasty league. I traded for Cam Akers. A week later, he tears his Achilles.
Oh my God.
I traded for Saquon Barkley. A week later, he sprains his ankle. I traded for Derrick Henry. 2 weeks later, he breaks his foot. It's just it's been my and yet somehow I'm still in first place in the league. Thank you, Josh Allen.
Man,
A lot of moving parts.
It's been unreal. All right, so let's look at a couple of our favorite Vegas lines for the week. So let's each give our first one. Marthani, what you got this week?
um, the first one I'm looking at here, I'm going to that Cincinnati's Bengals Raiders game. Um, last time we saw Cincinnati's defense, it was god awful. And the last time we saw the Raiders defense on Sunday night against Patrick Mahomes, it was awful as well. Um, I think that they can hit the over for sure. I think it's at 50, so 51 maybe. I think they can both definitely hit the over. I think Joe Burrow has a bounce back game from the last time that we saw him, and even though Derek Carr hasn't been like spectacular, it's enough to still put the points on the board to make sure they probably hit the over. I think Dell and I would take the over on that one between the Bengals and the Raiders.
That's one of my favorite plays of the week as well. Andrew, what you got?
Looking at Green Bay and Minnesota, Packers -1.5. Even though Green Bay is on the road, Minnesota's just really shown a lot of ineffectiveness to move the ball in the past few weeks. And even though, Green Bay, they held Patrick Mahomes to 17 points, even though they weren't as effective as maybe they could have been on offense, it was a game where Aaron Rodgers was coming off of COVID. Everyone's getting back in the swing of things. They lost Aaron Jones in that game. And it's been looking like the past few weeks, even with Aaron Jones in the lineup, they really want to get A.J. Dillon more involved and want to start the run game and opening that up more. And that's just going to lead to a lot of good things for Aaron Rodgers. And with the line at 1.5, it's basically a pick 'em. And I think Green Bay, I just think Green Bay puts up the points to cover in this game.
They're the better football team right now.
Yeah, they really plain and simple.
My first one that I'm going to, and I'm going to the Cleveland-Detroit game, and I know it's moved, and the line right now, the over-under is at 42.5. I don't see any way this gets to 42.5 points. You still have a Browns offense that hasn't found its identity all year long. They do get Nick Chubb back but how much are they going to need or rely on him? Dearness Johnson has looked really good in his absence, so maybe they do a split carries this week. But Baker isn't 100%. Jarvis Landry is a shell of his former self. OBJ is gone. Donovan Peoples-Jones is out. So the better of the two teams today, it isn't healthy. And that's going now over to Detroit. There is no Jared Goff. It's Tim Boyle making his first start in the NFL.
Nice.
I just don't see any way that this gets to 43 points. So I'm locking up the under in this game.
Somebody's putting 33,000 out there for Detroit on the money line.
That's not a bad play. There's
It's
worse
not a bad play.
ways-
Right now they're at plus 500.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at what that's 150 grand if you turn that around.
I think plus 13.5. The spread is like
Yeah,
very
13,
generous,
yeah.
very
Oh,
generous in favor of the Lions.
Absolutely
Yes.
right now. Yeah, definitely. All right, let's each give one more. So, Marthony, what you got?
This one is iffy for me because I guess it just really depends on the health of Kyler Murray. But right now they got
not look like
not
he's playing.
Yeah, it looks like he's out. We'll see Colt McCoy starting.
Yeah.
Man, I was kind of leaning towards maybe still saying going maybe Cardinals with the money line, just because Russell Wilson is still trying to get into the swing of things. Even though I know that Seattle's a 3-point favorite.
There are worse backup quarterbacks in the league than Colt McCoy.
Yeah,
it's not bad. I mean, he beat Seattle last year with the Giants, so
right.
So I mean, I think that's kind of. I think that one is it's iffy, but it's a sneaky one for sure to probably take the Cardinals just on the money line, even because it's just a 3-point spread right now that they got Seattle as a favorite. I guess just because for the most part, it's Seattle being at home and maybe they Vegas is thinking,
yep,
it's home game, Russell's second game back, maybe they could get something going, but. I would probably like to take Arizona on that money line. Though it's tricky, but I would take that chance.
Yep.
No DeAndre Hopkins too in that game as well. So
yeah,
they are down some weapons.
All right, Andrew, what you got?
There's a few games I'm looking at. I'm not gonna even touch the Dolphins and the Jets, even though -4 Miami does look very tempting. I actually really like Washington and Carolina. Carolina Panthers -3 at home against the Washington football team that we still don't know who they are, whether Heineke can throw for 300 yards and 3 TDs or he throws for 100 yards and 2 interceptions.
Right.
And, Cam's first game back at home, I think he looked really comfortable in the offense, even just running the ball under center and the few times he was in the game in the red zone. And now they're giving him the reins this week. I like Carolina -3 at home against a Washington football team that just lost Chase Young. So they're kind of they're down, they're not down in the dumps, but they're a little depleted right now. A little depleted.
And so I'm gonna go over to what should be the game of the week, and that's the Dallas KC. And to me, right now, anytime you can get Dallas at plus money, I think you have to hop on it. I think that there's been a lot made of, the Chiefs are back. The Chiefs are back. They played against the Raiders. I mean, Daniel Jones had a great game against the Raiders. If Mahomes didn't put up a big game last week, there would be a hell of a lot more questions about what is wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs as opposed to they're back now. I do know that Amari Cooper is out, but they do get Michael Gallup back. CeeDee Lamb is the number 2 wide receiver since week 3. And you're getting just an explosive offense at plus money, an offense that I actually think is better right now than the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm taking the money line with the Cowboys.
Not bad. That's really
it's not bad at all.
If you're gonna pick an underdog, that's probably the best pick this week.
Another one that I was looking at was the Chargers and Steelers. In terms of this the line, 47.5. the total points. I think with Pittsburgh being without TJ Watt, without Minka Fitzpatrick, without Joe Hayden this week, that's not going to be the same Pittsburgh defense that we're used to. If there's one thing that the Chargers don't do well on defense, it's stop the run. And Najee Harris is on pace for 417 touches so
That's a
far
lot.
on the year. A rookie just doesn't see that. They are so comfortable with giving him the ball however many times he wants, and I think he has a big game. So I think we can actually see points in this game. So that's another one I'm looking at. All right, let's take a look at some lineup questions that maybe we're looking at this week. Marthony, what is one decision that you're being forced to put a lot of thought into?
For me, it's actually in that Kansas City Dallas Cowboys game. I guess hearing about whether if I'm not sure if he is playing or not, but with Clyde Edwards-Helaire,
Yeah, it's not official, but he was activated
right.
From the COVID the IR list. It's expected that he's playing.
Yeah. So my thing is like, is
Can
he
you
going to
trust
get the bulk of the touches to trust him, or
Right.
do you stick with I ended up getting Darrell Williams, picking them up, and I've had him since Clyde Edwards-Helaire has gone on the IR, and it's like, well, do you
Who do you
think that
play?
they're
Oh,
gonna?
so
Yeah.
you've got the in-game lineup question.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I'm not sure how they're going to incorporate Clyde Edwards-Helaire this early. Williams has looked good. I think right now he's the safer. If you're looking for a higher floor, I think it's actually Williams. I think Edwards-Helaire has the higher ceiling.
Right.
Yeah, I think Williams' use in the passing game actually makes him a lot more of a safer floor option than Helaire. And even before he got injured, Helaire was not used too much in the passing game.
The crazy thing is that they went to Patrick Mahomes and they said, "Who do you want?" And he asked for Clyde Edwards-Helaire because of what he can bring in the passing game, and they do not utilize him whatsoever. So, in fact, I actually had a nice discussion with Derek Mountain, who used to do this show with me last year. He had put on Twitter that, is Darrell Williams actually a better running back than Clyde Edwards-Helaire? And I said, I straight out said no. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is better than Darrell Williams, but they need to start utilizing Clyde Edwards-Helaire the way that they utilize Darrell Williams, because I think if they get utilized in the same exact way, Clyde Edwards-Helaire puts up better games.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Andrew, what's one question that you're looking at this week?
At the most volatile position in fantasy football, the tight end, I have TJ Hawkinson. I picked up Tyler Conklin a few weeks ago, and I've actually been riding Conklin the past few weeks. And last week I made the mistake to play Hawkinson, and now I have Conklin plugged into my lineup this week. I just can't see Hawkinson really being any types of effective. He's going to be double, triple, quadruple covered.
He's their
only semblance of offense besides Deandre Swift. And who knows? I mean, maybe if Tim Boyle just decides to have himself the game of his life and never replicate it again, that's fine. I'll eat that. But I just cannot willingly play TJ Hawkinson right now against a Cleveland defense that's not bad, but not great, middle of the road defense. But Tyler Conklin against a Green Bay defense. There's a lot of weapons in Minnesota that Green Bay has to worry about, and Conklin he's been getting the targets, getting the receptions, and a big guy in the red zone. So
so the Packers are actually second in terms of points per game allowed to wide receivers, and they're somewhat like middle of the road against tight ends.
Yeah, ESPN has them ranked 21st.
Yeah, so if the one thing with Conklin is Conklin won't give you a goose egg. He'll always get you at least 3 for 20.
Yeah.
And he's definitely, I think he has the better chance of a touchdown because the offense is just purely better between the Vikings and the Lions. There's been times where defenses just say, we will not let TJ Hawkinson beat us. And they devote their entire game plan to taking him out, which is something that can easily happen.
And that's what Pittsburgh did last week. They said, Tyler, TJ Hawkinson, you will not be the reason we lose this game. And Baltimore did the same thing. Minnesota did the same thing. So it's, when those teams want to do that, you're by the second quarter, okay, this is what their game plan was.
Yeah. Now Conklin's been rolling pretty steady. I definitely will keep him going until something changes about. But Kirk Cousins has definitely grown into utilizing him more in the offense. So I would probably for sure keep rolling with Conklin.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the final play for me. It is Conklin ultimately, just because Hawkinson is just so volatile with a backup quarterback, and the only semblance of offense on the team runs through him.
And so the lineup question that I'm looking at is, and it's funny because it's actually between one of my stud running backs and one of my sleeper running backs. I'm looking at the decision between Myles Gaskin and Jeff Wilson Jr. Myles Gaskin gets to go against the Jets. The Jets are dead last in terms of giving up points to the running back in a PPR setting. He's been, and it's funny because Myles Gaskin has now had a 6-week back and forth where it's been bad week, good week, bad week, good week, bad week. Last week was a bad week. So now I'm expecting this to be a game that they're able to incorporate Myles Gaskin not only in the passing game, which when he's been effective, it's been mostly through the air, but I think they can get him rolling on the ground. And then Jeff Wilson Jr. We know that Kyle Shanahan loves to feature a running back. They're not going to have Elijah Mitchell this week. They're going against the Jaguars. And Jeff Wilson, even though he missed the first half of the season, is still the most familiar with this Kyle Shanahan system. I think he can step in right exactly into the role that Elijah Mitchell had carved out for himself over the past couple weeks.
I am flexing Jeff Wilson Jr. in my league, and I picked him up in a couple dailies just because he's extremely cheap in fantasy.
He's in all my DFS lineups.
Yeah. I will say that the one thing is when two bad teams tend to play, with Myles Gaskin playing the Jets, this might just be a week he absolutely explodes against him.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's that following that pattern, it is his time to shine this week.
Yeah, I think he's due for sure. So it's probably going to be the Gaskins, but you really can't go wrong with either one just because of definitely one of the matchups that they have.
I do think that it's I'm not necessarily going to make a wrong decision. I think they both have really good games.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that would scare me a little bit about Jeff Wilson Jr. is Deebo Samuel's now role coming out of the backfield. Now, I don't know. Part of me was watching that game and saying, are they utilizing Deebo out of the backfield to get him away from Jalen Ramsey? Because if that's what they did, it was perfect. It was a perfect game plan because they were able to get him touches and jet sweeps, even in counters and wheel routes out of the backfield. They were using their best player in that role, which is ultimately going to take touches away from Jeff Wilson Jr.
That's the way everybody wants to get their role player of the football. I mean, Tavon Austin was drafted out of college to be utilized directly in that fashion.
Right.
I mean, it comes down to coaching and scheming at the end of the day, but
yeah, he didn't have Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think you can go wrong.
Yeah.
I think
right now I have Gaskin in because I do think he's the safer of the two.
Right.
All right. As a reminder, if you have any lineup questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section. We will answer them live on air. Always looking forward to the viewer lineup questions. All right, let's get our studs, duds, and sleepers in. All right, so we always start off with our studs, and we'll start off with quarterbacks. Marthany, why don't you lead us off?
Okay, cool. I've had like a love-hate relationship with this guy because every time that I end up putting him as the studs, for some reason he doesn't come through. But I feel like there's no way that he doesn't pull out this one just because of who he's facing. But I'm going Ryan Tannehill.
We're gonna start this again, aren't we? We're gonna start this again, aren't we? Last week, Andrew, we were going through.
Oh my God!
He had of my 12 picks, he had 7 or 8 of them.
Oh my! Great minds thinking alike.
Yeah,
but I mean, going against the Texas defense, who they give up a ton of points to the quarterback position. Ryan Tannehill obviously has been getting rushing touchdowns too. He's had at least 20 points, at least 3 out of the last 4 games here. So it's just no way that he shouldn't be able to just have a good game today against that Houston defense.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I have Tannehill in a few dailies. He's actually in my top 5 this week. But I really like Joe Burrow this week going against just a putrid Las Vegas. Whose was that?
That's my backup. My backup was Joe Burrow.
Okay, we're all in this same boat. We're all gonna make a good amount of money in daily fantasy today, or you're gonna come back next week and we're just gonna be wearing suspenders and milk crates. But Burrow coming back from a bye against a really disgusting Las Vegas D that just got torched by Patrick Mahomes, and this is a Patrick
had been struggling really
bad. A struggling Kansas City offense. But Las Vegas just seems really broken right now. And on the flip side of that as well, I can make that same case for playing Derek Carr. I have him in a daily lineup as well because the Cincinnati defense is not the greatest either. But the lack of weapons on offense for Oakland, it makes Derek Carr a little bit lesser of a play, maybe just outside the top 10. But Joe Burrow this week, he's my guy. I'm sticking with him.
The only other quarterback that would be in the stud category for me would be Josh Allen. If I'm going to pay up on DFS, I'm going to get the cream of the crop. The Indianapolis defense is near the bottom of the league in terms of pass defense. They're near the top of the league in terms of in terms of rush defense. What do the Buffalo Bills want to do more than almost any team in the NFL? They want to throw the ball. I'm looking to get whatever pieces of this passing offense I can get. We're going to talk more about the passing offense as we get down into the other categories. But gentlemen, thank you for taking both of my picks. All right, Marthony, who you got over at running back?
This is probably like really more of a safe pick just because of the injury that's going on. But I think he has another good game since he had one last week. AJ Dillon going up against that Minnesota defense.
My backup.
That's cool. We're good. We're good. But man, the physicality that he runs with, obviously, once he gets his touches, he has pretty much shined every time he's been out there on the field, getting his touches, especially last week. And that Minnesota rush defense is not the best either. So it's a pretty good matchup. And even with is Aaron Rodgers is playing today, correct? Right? Because he played last week, right? Yeah. So even with Aaron Rodgers coming back, though, obviously, Matt LaFleur's game plan is always to still be kind of to run the ball first. So they're definitely going to make sure AJ Dillon gets his touches. I think he has another good week this week.
I hope so because I've been handcuffing him with Aaron Jones all week, and this is the first time he's going to see. It's the first time he's going to see the lineup. So I hope he's got a big week in him.
So I've actually in one of my leagues, I've had him on my bench just stashed because I knew that this was going to eventually come.
Mhm.
And thank goodness it came in a week that I lost Alvin Kamara for
Yeah.
the week also.
Oh, great timing.
So I ended up actually flexing AJ Dillon last week, even when Aaron Jones was still in the lineup. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I pulled out a huge win, thanks in part to the decision to play AJ Dillon. I was just in a mess with Kamara out, another bye that I had to deal with. Yeah, AJ Dillon, he's Derrick Henry light.
Yes, he's a smaller Derrick Henry, but he's a bowling ball. When he gets
Yeah.
going, he's tough.
He plays the exact same way that Derrick Henry would play.
Mhm.
Andrew, who you got over at running back?
I like Ezekiel Elliott, running back for the Dallas Cowboys against Kansas City today. This can be a track meet really quickly, and Kansas City has they have not had the best run defense. They had Devontae Booker gash them a few weeks ago for almost 100+ yards. Josh Jacobs had himself a nice game last week, and they just don't really seem to have a bit of an identity on defense. I mean,
And it's also odd because Josh Jacobs usually only performs well when the Raiders win. It's an over 7-point difference in Josh Jacobs point totals in Raider wins versus Raider losses.
mhm.
But you're right. He looked really good against Kansas City.
Yeah, and then even Kansas City, they just I don't think that their defense, even though they have Steve Spagnuolo as their defensive coordinator, he was great with New York, great in St. Louis, but in Kansas City, it seems like the personnel something's missing
Right.
there, where they're not able to stop the run.
Yeah,
So
and I
I'll
mean,
take
Spagnuolo's what he does best is the pass blitz.
Mhm.
That's why, and sometimes it leaves them exposed in the running game, and it's happened a lot this year. My stud running back again that I just talked about is Myles Gaskin. He's the guy who I put a lot of chips into the middle of the table, especially in DFS. I have him a lot of places in a lot of my lineups. A lot of my lineups did include the two that I was talking about, Myles Gaskin and Jeff Wilson. So yeah, the Jets cannot. And what has made the Jets most vulnerable to the running backs is the running backs that do catch the ball out of the backfield. They have
Mhm.
not been good against. They're almost bad as your Falcons there, Martha. I'm sorry. Too
That's
soon.
tough.
Too soon.
Uh, I'm just glad they're not playing today. I can preserve my mental health.
Yeah, your Sunday now. You can relax, sit back, maybe go
Yeah.
for a walk, soak in the weather.
Yeah. All right. So Myles Gaskin is my stud running back of the week. On to wide receivers.
My stud at wide receiver I got this week, I'm going with T. Higgins. Once again, just how bad their Raiders defense is. Obviously, they're going to want to try to key in on Jamar Chase. But T. Higgins has emerged as that other guy. We thought it was, between him and Tyler Boyd, who would be like that number 2 guy. And the last few weeks has been more T. Higgins than Tyler Boyd. I would probably go with Higgins over Boyd if I was, starting one in a weekly lineup or even in DFS. I probably would go with Higgins over Tyler Boyd. So I like T. Higgins this week. He should have another good game for sure, along with Chase and the rest of those guys, because it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I'm starting T. Higgins in a league where I have DeAndre Hopkins, who's now on the bench. Chase Claypool is questionable, but who knows how healthy he actually is. So I have Higgins playing there, and I'm pretty confident about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, who you got?
Stephon Diggs against the Colts. He's home, first of all. And then second of all, we talked about anytime you pay up for Josh Allen, you pretty much have to pay up for Diggs as well. The two just go hand in hand really. They go hand in hand really well. It's like pairing Mahomes and Hill together, or Mahomes and Kelsey. But Diggs against a Colts defense that allowed Josh Johnson to throw for 300 yards. And then who they had Tennessee last week, I believe.
Yeah, and Marcus Johnson went off.
Yeah. So they really do not have a secondary that I think can keep up with Stephon Diggs or even Josh Allen and his arm for that matter. And I think the ball is going to get stretched really, really far in this game. So I like Stephon Diggs this week.
I'm gonna. Sorry, Andrew. I'm gonna continue to load up on my Dolphins.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle's gonna be my my stud wide receiver of the week, especially in PPR settings.
Mm-hmm.
He's the number one.
Right.
I mean, a lot of that is by de facto with no
one else really there.
Parker.
Yeah.
Is Fuller coming back this week, or does it sound more like next week? I didn't hear.
I didn't hear anything either. I think it might be more so next week. Yeah.
And I mean, I do like Mike Gesicki as well. The Jets. I mean, the Jets defense has just been so bad. They're they're last in the league against running backs, last in the league against tight ends, and near the bottom against wide receivers as well. Yeah, and we'll probably talk more about another player later on as we get going.
Mm-hmm.
All right, stud tight ends of the week. Marthony, who you got?
Speaking of Mike Gesicki, I mean, it's just it's a no-brainer just to go ahead and he should have a well of a game this week. Like we mentioned how bad the Jets are against the tight ends. He should be bound to at least get you one touchdown for sure because they've given up a touchdown. I want to say either 5 straight games or 4 out of the last 5 straight games. The tight end has maybe at least scored 8 touchdowns on them. Outside of Jalen Waddle, Gesicki is definitely one of Tua's favorite targets that he likes to give him the ball to. So he should definitely have a big game today. Anybody for the Dolphins is probably bound to have a nice day today.
And then how about last week where he led the team in targets? What was it, 7 or 8 targets with 0 catches? Right. Now, a lot of that was the first half or so was Jacoby Brissett, who was just atrocious. And I think it was a blessing in disguise for them that they just decided to go back to Tua, who I think was healthy enough all along. They were just being cautious with him because they're not going anywhere. But yeah, they're going to make sure that Gesicki doesn't give a goose egg like he did last week. Andrew, who you got?
I have Dalton Schultz. We do it again.
Look, Mike Gesicki, Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, let's tag team on this. Dalton Schultz is now they're coming back from a game, and they don't have Amari Cooper right now. They're seeing Michael Gallup return, Cedric Wilson, and CeeDee Lamb. So those are a lot of weapons that Kansas City is going to try and neutralize. And then I think in the red zone as well, once they get down into that goal line situation, he's just a big target that's if they're not going to hand the ball off to Zeke, they'll try and look for Dalton Schultz for some touchdowns and for some touches.
Yeah, and he is the ultimate safety blanket for Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
He's reliable in the red zone. He's an above average blocking tight end. He's turned into a really good, effective player in the NFL.
Quietly too.
Very quietly. Absolutely. So I'll go with Dawson Knox. Well, why not? Let's get more pieces of this Buffalo passing attack. He's back from the broken finger. He's had a little bit more time to recover, and like I said, the Indianapolis passing defense is one of the worst in the league, and they're just gonna air it out as many times as they can. Let's get Dawson Knox into some lineups as well. All right. Excuse me. Duds. Uh, Dud quarterbacks of the week. Marthony, who you got?
My dud this week, we mentioned it before, but I'm going with Taylor Heineke. Just the matchup that he has this week against Carolina is not good for sure. Um, Carolina's defense, passing defense wise, I mean, the last 4 games has been incredible. They've held each quarterback at least under 225 yards. Now they split in the last 2 games, but they split 2 out of those 4. Obviously, losing to the Giants, losing to the Patriots, but because they have problems themselves at quarterback at that point with Sam Darnold. But the fact that holding guys like Daniel Jones and Matt Ryan, Mac Jones, who all of at one point were on a couple of little hot streaks, holding them under 225 yards like that. That passing defense for Carolina has been pretty amazing. I just can't see Taylor Heineke having a good game today, just because he's so Jekyll and Hyde himself. You just never know what you're going to get for him. So I don't think there's a good game this week for Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, the Carolina defense is number one in the NFL in terms of giving up fantasy points to the quarterback and fantasy points to the wide receiver. So we may talk about someone in a few in a few minutes. Andrew, who you got at duds for quarterback?
There's 2 options on my mind right now. 1, Russ Wilson. 2, Carson Wentz. But I'm going to go with Carson Wentz right now. He's against the best Buffalo defense that we've seen in quite some time.
Yep.
They just don't allow teams to score points. They have a lot of takeaways. And Carson against a Jacksonville defense in the Dome, home last week, stunk. And this is coming off of 2 really big games against a putrid Jets defense. I mean, he was just able to take advantage of that. And he seems to be a matchup-based quarterback. And if he's not able to take advantage of Jacksonville home, I don't see Buffalo on the road in the cold being a place where he excels this week. So I fade.
And it sucks because I'm so heavily invested in Michael Pittman this year.
Really?
He was one of my favorite round 7 to 10 targets.
Mm-hmm.
I have him so many places this year. So
he's been holding up pretty well.
He has.
Yeah.
But I'm not
crazy.
Not expecting much this week.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stay in actually the same game as Marthony. Cam Newton is actually going to be my dud quarterback of the week. Everyone saw Cam Newton. First play, he comes in, touchdown. He gets another touchdown. Look at that. Yeah. You know what? If I had as many plays from within the 2-yard line, I could probably score some touchdowns as well.
Valid.
Now he has to deal with all 100 yards of a football field. And the last time that we saw Cam Newton try to lead an NFL team, it just did not look well. DJ Moore is not 100%. Robbie Anderson, I mean, what happened to him this year? A lot of us were expecting the breakout of Terrace Marshall. We haven't seen that. Now, a lot of this has to do with the fact that Sam Darnold went from the next coming in the first 3 weeks of the season to the same old Darnold that we saw in New York. And now with him being out for, we can probably say out for the year. They don't want to play Darnold anymore.
I don't know what the conditions are on their draft picks now, but I think because Darnold didn't play a certain amount of games or hit his quota, one of the conditional draft picks that Carolina sent to the Jets is now being null. But that's not here nor there. The big thing, though, is to root for Arizona because the Jets have Seattle's first-round pick this year.
Yeah, and so we were talking about the Lamar Jackson with him being out for the week. As Giant fans, I'm rooting for the Ravens because we have the Bears first-round draft pick. And so now
And you're just going back and forth every week. I will say
Right.
The one thing that Cam does have going against him is this is now a Chase Young-less Washington team.
Right, but it's also a
down.
Chase Young for the majority of the game last week. It was a Chase Young-less Washington defense that shut down Tom Brady.
That's true.
This is obviously a defense that has a lot of pieces and a lot of potential. They were one of the best defenses in the entire NFL last year. They were the defense that everyone wanted to get their hands on earlier in fantasy drafts, and most people wanted to draft the defense. There still is some semblance of that really good defense in there somewhere. It hasn't come out for most of the year this year, but who knows? Maybe what we saw last week was them starting to put something together in terms of a defense. And maybe they're able to not rely on Chase Young doing as much, because Chase Young has done nothing throughout most of the year this year. I think he only had 1.5 sacks. This was it's not like they're missing somebody who has just been purely dominant the entire season. So I think Washington can be a tough matchup, even though it doesn't look like it on paper. Running backs, Marthony, who you got?
I got a couple that I'm looking at. One that I see is I probably wouldn't want to touch either running backs for Buffalo, for Devin Singletary or Zach Moss, just because of how well the Colts are against the run. So obviously we mentioned everything about the pass catchers and Josh Allen, obviously. So we think they're going to throw the ball more down the field. It's just a matchup thing with them. And then another one I will probably sit. I'll probably go back again to that Carolina-Washington game. Is J.D. McKissic, because when Antonio Gibson is healthy, and when Washington uses their head and thinks about how good Antonio Gibson is, they go ahead and use him more. That's the guy that they have to play, Antonio Gibson, instead of J.D. McKissic. So those are my two guys that I would sit today.
All right. Quickly, Andrew, who you got?
I'll make this short and simple. Deandre Swift, running back, Detroit Lions. They're going to load the box. They're going to make Tim Boyle beat them, bottom line. And they're just not going to let Deandre Swift run the ball.
I'm going with Jonathan Taylor. And as much as everybody, and this is strictly in terms of DFS. I'm staying away from Jonathan Taylor as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because I'm just afraid of that Buffalo defense. I'm starting him if I have him in a season-long league. There's no way you can get away from him. But in DFS, all right, quickly, let's just go through our sleepers. Give me your four down the positions. Marthony, who you got?
Quarterback, I'm going with Jimmy Garoppolo. Running back, I went with Kenyon Drake. Him and Josh Jacobs could split some time. Wide receivers, I went with Rashad Bateman.
So Bateman was going to be my guy until the Lamar Jackson illness. But yeah, Bateman is somebody that I picked up in a couple places this week.
I ended up playing him in daily.
I think he's primed for a breakout.
And at tight end, I went with CJ Uzomah for the Bengals.
Yeah, Uzomah, great choice. I picked him in a few dailies as well.
Yeah, he's pretty cheap on the daily.
Yep. All right, Andrew, who you got as sleepers?
Quarterback, quarterback, I have Tua Tagovailoa. I don't know if he's a sleeper or not, but if you're playing the Jets,
he was my sleeper. So
if you're playing against the Jets, you're gonna want to play him. Running back, I have Jeff Wilson Jr. Wide receiver, Darnell Mooney in Chicago. Him and Fields seem to have something going. It's been
no Allen Robinson this week as well. So
yeah, big. And then tight end, I have who do I have? Oh, I picked him for my stud of the week, Dalton Schultz. But
okay.
Yeah, I will give another one just for the sake of to mix things up, but Pat Freiermuth in Pittsburgh, he's a guy that's really been coming along the past few weeks.
Yeah, he's almost into a must start category because the position is so volatile.
Yeah.
And with Roethlisberger's history of relying on a tight end, he's gonna have a lot of value, especially down the stretch. I'm gonna go with Derek Carr as my sleeper quarterback of the week. Mark Ingram. He's back in New Orleans. He's going to be the starting running back against Philly this week. I'm gonna go to the well. Last week we saw Marcus Johnson have a 100-yard game. Now he gets to go up against Houston. AJ Brown is still not 100%. I think he can have another big game. And Cole Kmet is going to be my tight end. Strictly on Allen Robinson not being there, because I think now he moves into that number 2 target in that system.
Yeah.
All right, so that is going to do it for this week, guys. Awesome week. Love having the full house on.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you're following Backsports page on all social media at Backsports page. Let me get rid of this. I am on Twitter at rstern33. Marthony is at IM_M_Sanders_, and Andrew is at AM24810.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, there we go. So make sure you're following us on social media as well, guys. Awesome job. Let's do this again next week. All right.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
looking forward to it.
All right, and have a good week, everybody.
Yeah, be good.